Okay. I don't like this. I don't like being on a bed. So when I first started podcasting, I actually had like a whole setup. Well, it wasn't even a whole setup. It was just my living room in my LA apartment, which had this like really big like sectional couch that I loved because people would just come over and we would just have like really long talks on this fucking huge couch. And it was like so comforting. I don't know. And that's like how I kind of got the idea for podcasting because I just loved all of these conversations we were having in this like really on this like really comfy. And I just feel like that's like usually how it happens. You're just like chilling at someone's apartment and you end up having like really good conversations. So that was the concept that I wanted to do. And I wanted that to be like my filming spot is just like my sectional couch in the living room that I fucking loved. And so that I still kind of want to like stay with that concept in a way. I obviously am moving around right now, so I don't have a living room. Um, but I also realized like the first couple episodes I didn't like really film myself. Um, I don't know why. I guess I think also because like for podcasting, like I just think it's better like when you're like with someone. So like I don't want to just like be the only person on the camera, but I realize that some of these episodes are going to be on my own until I like get to the US, which is like so basically um the plan. I don't know why I'm telling you what the plan is, but I'm gonna do a couple more episodes here, just like on my own, and then basically. Oh yeah, one sec. Sorry, I lost from my thought. I have ADHD pretty much. Um, Once I get to the US, I want to like film with like my friends that are like in Chicago, and then some that are like in LA. Just think it'll be like a fun little project, honestly. But anyways, so I don't particularly like being on the bed. I wish there was a living room, so we're just gonna have to make do. Um, where do I want? Okay, so basically, I think what I wanted to talk about today. Sorry, I just drink a lot of coffee, so like I realize that I'm talking really fast. I need to slow down, and it's really fucking hot in here. So, I mean, I am in the Philippines and I'm wearing a fucking sweatshirt like a psycho. Um, okay. So I think obviously, I mean, there's so many different things like I want to talk about, but I think in order to have some structure in this, um, I started like with this like, and I think that this is like probably something like a lot of us have gone through like a big breakup in our lives that have like really shifted and did a number on us. And I think what I kind of like wanted to get into, and I'm not saying I'm a fucking pro at this because I'm also still learning, but what it's like to begin dating again after you come out of that. And, like there's like so many opinions out there about like, whether like how much time you should take after a breakup before you start dating again. Um, and I do absolutely believe like you should give yourself time to like grieve um, and process the relationship that you just got out of. But I also believe like you can only do that for so long. And in order to really heal and learn more about who you are in a relationship, you have to continue to keep dating, which is so daunting when you're, I mean, I don't even want to say when you're in your 30s because I just think it's dating in general. And I don't, so when I got out of my relationship, like, mind you, I had been in a relationship for almost 7 years. So the last time I was dating, like I was in my early 20s. And so life was completely different than me being in my early 30s. So it's like a fucking 10-year difference, right? So like in Chicago, I briefly mentioned like I partied a lot and like I was a serial casual dater. Like I mean, obviously I think a part of me was definitely going through some shit. So to say in the most respectful manner to that old version of myself. Um so like I I don't know what the fuck I was doing. But I was just having fun. And I regret zero of it because I had a lot of fun. But I will say in my 30s, I definitely wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna like get back out there and fucking start dating and sleeping around and like whatever. Like that was not the fucking case. It was like I got out here and that's the culture. And I don't know if like it was like just who I was surrounding myself with. Actually, I just feel like this is just normal. But I mean, there is like such a the hookup culture now. It's just I don't know. I guess it feels different. I feel like there's I don't know how to put this. It just doesn't feel like genuine connection. I don't know. And I think in large it has to do with like the internet. Like I mean there were dating apps back when I was in my 20s, but like and I was using them. Um but I don't know. I think like I'm not trying to like disrespect anyone that uses dating apps, but I feel like in a lot like there are cases where you can meet someone genuine and I my best friends like they met through a dating app. And like there are cases like that, but I think a majority of people like they use dating apps as a form of validation for one, and two, it gives people this sense of like wanting to find something better and just like having an endless amount of options. And I don't know, there's just like something about that just like doesn't sit right with me, especially as someone who's dealt with like infidelity and cheating and lying in almost all of my relationships. um I can't say that dating apps make me feel secure in a relationship with anyone. Like it's like right off the bat you already know this like this person is swiping and they have multiple conversations going on with other people. And I'm not saying like when you first meet someone, like of course, like you can't like put all your eggs in one basket. Or I mean, I don't know. I I guess I do. Like for me, this is just my experience. I can barely keep up with talking to one man. Like talking to several men, oh my god, exhausting. Like to remember, first of all, my brain cannot just I just can't handle it. Like I don't know what I told you. Now I gotta fucking scroll back to what the fuck conversation we had and like what you know about me. And then there's another guy who I'm having a completely separate conversation with, and I don't know what the fuck I told him. And it's like it's just too much for me. So like for me, what like when I was using dating apps, I I could really only focus on like one person. And like yeah, maybe initially like I would start talking to people, but I was just talking to a friend like I feel like it's so hard to stay engaged in a conversation on dating apps. So like the people that like make it through past like that first initial contact, um like once I find someone that I'm like actually talking to, I drop everybody else. I don't know if that's like the right thing to do. I mean, there is no right or wrong way to do it, but it's just I can't. My brain can only handle so much. so, um, so yeah, I'm not a fan of dating apps. For me, I would rather meet someone. Also, all of going back, sorry, before I move forward, all of the experiences that I've had from dating apps have not been good. so, um, I think I think especially the last dating app experience that I had, I think that just did me in, and I was like, all right, I'm done. So, I will say, like, I just prefer meeting people through an authentic sort of way. And by that meaning, like, and honestly, I had never really met people through this way up until recently. But just literally finding new hobbies and like doing the things that you enjoy doing, and then meeting people from those different communities. Like, that's just the way I feel like, whether it like be like you meet someone like working out or at a dance class or whatever the fuck, at a fucking art class. I don't fucking know. Whatever you like to do, but it's like at least you already know that this person shares that common interest with you. Um, where I feel like that's also just like more so something that you do maybe when you're older. I don't know. I don't like to like classify like 20s versus 30s because I do think that there's just like also a lot of like really woke 20-year-olds where I'm like, oh wow, you're actually kind of mature for your age. Which like, kind of shocks me because like when I was in my 20s, I was like, oh, I just want to get fucked up and like go clubbing and stuff. Because isn't that what you're supposed to do when you're in your 20s? I don't know. But I guess the times are changing. So what I kind of wanted to go through is just like dating sucks. That's the common theme here. I don't particularly like it, just because it's not that I don't like it. It's I'm trying to think of like what it actually is. It's it's like the investment. It's like when you finally choose the person that you decide that you're going to get to know, you just don't know where that's going to end up. Like, and I think like the worst part of it is something like I have a problem with is just like having like these expectations, which is like something I'm working on, of like where you want it to end up, and then the disappointment of like when it doesn't happen that way whatsoever. So, um, I think that's like something you have to get rid of. And like essentially, like when you date someone and when you talk to someone, you're literally starting from a blank slate. Like, yes, you're carrying whatever like triggers, traumas from your past relationships, but like you also have to see it like this is a completely brand new person. And like, yeah, you still have like these fears that you're like holding on to, um, from past relationships, but you're dealing with a completely different new person. So the way that you move forward and have to like compromise with this person is completely new. So, um, and you just don't know where that's going to end up. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it works temporarily and then it doesn't. So, just like really takes time and energy, and that's why I'm so adamant on like choosing like the right person to invest in. um that's like also why I don't like really casually date. I think like I I mean, without sounding like a complete stalker, but like I study people. I mean, if I am actually interested in you, and this is like, this goes for romantic or platonic relationships. Like, if I want to invest in a friendship with you or a romantic relationship with you, like, I am paying attention to you, like, the moment we meet. Like, how you interact with me, how you interact with other people, your body language, like everything. Like, I pay attention to all of that. And I know that sounds like absolutely insane, but I also think it's like, I don't want to say it's a trauma response, but it's like also in some sort of way a defense mechanism for me, for so that I can be more careful in choosing who I allow into my life, you know? And it's very intentional. Like, that's just like the way it is. So and that takes time. Like, you know, obviously you don't know someone like off of your first impression. Like, it takes time to like really get to know people and their habits. And people, like, the more you see people, the more you learn about them and the more you recognize um like who they are. Um and so I know that sounds like very judgy of me. And I want to make that clear. I'm not really judging you. I'm, what's the right word? It's more so like I'm deciding whether or not this is something I want to bring into my life. So I am like very, I think from a lot of past experiences, I've just learned to be very selective on the people I allow into my life. So, because like, here's the thing, like, if you're someone that, like myself, like, I really give, I'm like a very giving person in my relationships, and my friendships, and like the people that are in my life. Like, I'm a fucking ride or die for them, but you can't be a ride or die for fucking everyone. Okay, that's how you get drained and burnt out, and fucking you're pouring from an empty cup, and then you got nothing left for yourself. So like, that's why it's just so important to like choose the people that you surround yourself with, who you get into relationships with. So this is something I've had to learn, because when I first started dating after my first relationship, I went downhill first. Okay. So, like, you know, coming out of that relationship, now looking back, I realized that my self esteem was not, I was not thinking very highly of myself. Um, Even though it didn't feel like that at the time, you know, I think, I think at the time I felt like physically was like looking better, but internally I was not. Like, I was not feeling good. And there's, this is no disrespect to anyone that, like, you know, I was involved with at the time, but like, just by the quality of relationships that I was choosing, and like what I was settling for, like the way that I was being treated, um, you know, it makes me feel sad for like that version of myself. Um, Thinking that like that's what I deserved, or that's what I was like settling for. Um, but you almost have to like, I hate to put it this way, like you almost have to like beat yourself up in order for you to be like, okay, this is enough. I don't want this anymore, you know? And that's like really what it was. It was just like one shitty motherfucker after another, like over and over and over again, dude. And, you know, and then it finally got to a point where I was like, I don't like feeling this way. Like, I feel like shit. And like, I'm crying most of the time. Like, and, you know, it's definitely has a lot to do with like, if you don't recognize your own value, like other people aren't gonna like, or like some people will recognize your value, but if they realize that you don't recognize your own, like they're not gonna treat you in the way that you want to be treated. So it's like the boundaries, the like learning to walk away, you know, or spot out like when you're being treated a certain way, like learning to walk away from things that you don't want to walk away from, is like the hardest thing, but also like the best thing. And it gets so much easier. Like, you know, I used to stay. I mean, I stayed, you know, someone literally told me he didn't want to marry me. And I stayed in that relationship for another 2 years. Like, you know, so like to like really learn how to walk away from things and like, you know, you get to be like so forgiving to people that you like care about. And for me, like I think also like one of the biggest problems for me is like I love to see like the best in people. um and I can, you see the, it's like seeing the potential in somebody. But if that person doesn't see themselves in that way, like you, there's nothing you can do there. You can't change them. They have to see it themselves. So um that's why I've definitely like, I used to be like one of those people that like wanted to be like a fixer. Like I want to like fix this person and I want to help this person, especially like in dating. But now, um one like huge qualifier for me, like when I am seeing someone, I always ask myself, do I like who this person is right now? And is that enough for me to have them in my life? And that's like a huge question for me because it helps me deal with like my like fixer tendencies. And if like, and obviously there's some things that you can be lenient about, but when it comes to like your non-negotiables and like your values and stuff like that, like does this person like meet that? um that's kind of like how I qualify whether or not I'm gonna like engage with this person or not. And I'm not gonna say always, like um there is definitely there's definitely like, I will say, I'm here's the thing. I know I say all this shit about like trying to be in healthy relationships, and I do try to be like a healthy person in relationships and be honest, but there is still very much so a part of me that is like toxic and crazy and like insane sometimes. And that's just a part of me. That's just like who I am. And I think like for a while I tried to like hide that, but you know, you just got to accept all sides of yourself. And so I will say that like sometimes, because being responsible being responsible in dating, it can get very quiet and boring. And I'm like, fuck, my phone is dry as fuck. I haven't talked to anyone in like fucking over a year. Like, or, you know, just like you get bored sometimes. And sometimes you're like, do I still got it? Like, I don't even know. Like, do people just not like me? I don't know. So, you know, sometimes you engage in activity that is not in your best interest. And then you soon find out that you're not into this shit anymore. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know why I fucking did this because this is fucking wasting my time. And then you get out of it and then you keep moving on in life. And so that happens sometimes. But for a majority of it, I say like you know, in order to really understand what you like about relationships, and like what you do want and what you don't want, um, you have to date. You have to put yourself out there, and it sucks and it's scary, and it sometimes and oftentimes, if you are someone like me, I am very sensitive. I know it doesn't seem that way, or maybe it does. I don't know, but like when you invest in someone and you like someone, like when I like someone, I like someone. So when it doesn't work out, it feels very incredibly disappointing to me, and I get very sad. Yes. I get very sad, but um what the the best, I wouldn't say it's the best part of it, but the good thing is that as I've dated, as I've continued to date, like the disappointment and the hurt is like still the same with all of these relationships. And like, sorry, excuse me. I refer to like everything as a relationship. Like if whether it's like a situationship or whatever the fuck, it's like if you have this connection with someone, I just consider that like a relationship, you know. And maybe it's not like an exclusive relationship or something, but it's like this connection that you have with someone, right? I guess connection is like a different way to put it. But what was I saying? Oh, so like every connection, like it feels just when it doesn't work out, it feels just as devastating. Um, but I will say, like, I've gotten so much better at just like moving on. Like, you learn to just like let yourself feel sad. I think for a while I just like tried to like when I first started dating, I like really tried to just like avoid feeling sad. So I would just like keep myself busy. But honestly, the key is to just like let yourself be sad. So like when something doesn't like work out for me, like really what happens is like I just get tired of like this like certain behavior, or, like how I feel. If like I'm like, damn, I'm tired of like feeling this way, or I don't really like the way that this person's treating me. Um, for me, it's easier. Like the more quickly I've come to realize it, and I'm like, okay, I don't like this. And then like when I really decide, like I will give this person, I don't know, X amount of tries, whatever. But eventually I get to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm over this. And when I decide that I'm over it, I like really detach from that person. Like, um, and so you know, you have to create space between you and that person, and also you have to allow yourself to feel sad about it. You grieve that connection or whatever you thought that was going to be, or the hopes that you had for that relationship, and you just like let yourself be sad about it. And I like will fucking, you know, cry my eyes out. and, and then I'll let myself be sad. I'll order takeout and like fucking watch K dramas. I'll fucking binge the show, which by the way, K dramas, they really are a cure, actually, is what I really think, especially when you're like going through it with somebody, or like trying to like get over someone. I feel, for me at least, I feel like K dramas like make me feel hopeful, because I'm like, oh, that, like, even though it's like this like TV love, I'm like, it also makes you recognize like there is like good, healthy, I wouldn't say K dramas are healthy love, but like, you know, you realize there are like good moments, instead of like focusing on all these like bad things that like didn't work out for you. So I feel like K dramas have definitely like allowed me to like stay hopeful in some sort of way. Um, Besides the point, but you just have to like let yourself be sad, do what you do when like whatever makes you happy, whatever that is. And then like to a point where I'm like, okay, well, I'm done being sad now, so now I'm just gonna like go back to life, and I go back to like working out and like doing my hobbies, and then like hanging out with friends. So, and then it's just a cycle, and it gets easier and easier and easier as you keep going. So I think like that has allowed me to just like get better at dating, or get better at like getting to know people, because I used to have like such a fear of getting involved with people. And like when you have that fear, like people will mirror that back to you. Like, so that's why I really believe like you meet people and you get involved with people that are in some sort of way in your same playing field of like emotional availability in some sort of way, until you're no longer in that, you know? So like I always think to myself, if I am dating someone who's like really emotionally unavailable, there is a part of me that is also emotionally unavailable. Um, and I think that when those cases happen, I understand that like this is not like and obviously the goal is to be emotionally available so that you can receive a good relationship, right? And so when I recognize that in a certain connection, um, I also take that as a sign of like, okay, this is actually not what I want. I don't want to be emotionally unavailable to this person. So um, just like remember, like when you are dating, like you are in some sort of way like dating a mirror to yourself. And I've always found that to be true in some sort of way, with the people that I have dated or gotten into um, situations and relations with as I've been dating. Trying to think of, I think that's like maybe I don't know how long this is, so I think that's like where I really want to end. Um, I don't know. I hope that was like helpful for like anyone that is like trying to date after a breakup. Um, Sorry, I don't mean to say that. I know I said that dating sucks. It doesn't suck. Like going back, backtracking. It doesn't suck. Like I have learned so much from each person I've gotten involved with. Like you learn the lesson, and that's really what it is that these people come in here to teach you something about yourself, especially when it doesn't work out. Like, and that's what that grieving period, like, when you're ordering takeout and you're fucking eating ice cream and you're watching your K dramas, that's when you got to think about, like, what did I learn from this? And I'm like, oh, I learned that I don't like being fucking treated this way. Like, so like you have to like really figure out like why didn't it work out, and use that information. Here's the thing, is like you can learn all the lessons, but if you don't apply it moving forward, you're just going to keep doing the same shit over and over again. So like take that lesson and apply it now when you move on and you start going to the next person. And you need to recognize those signs in someone, or like recognize how you feel. Like if you recognize that you're starting to kind of like feel a little sad, or like this person makes me feel a little anxious about this. And sometimes it's your own anxiety, sometimes it's you being anxious, and so you have to be able to like differentiate between that. But pay attention to how you feel. Like, um, I think also this is where I want to end, is like the biggest indication I feel of recognizing whether or not a connection is right for you is use your friendships as like this sense of guidance. Like when you think about the friends that you can be yourself around, that's like when you feel safest, right? And so you want to find someone who makes you feel like that sort of safety. And obviously, like that's something that has to be like built, and like it doesn't happen like right off the bat. Obviously, like when I think about my friends that make me feel safe, like it wasn't always like that, like right off the bat in the beginning. But they're there wasn't a part of me that like felt defensive with them, you know? And so I try to like pay attention to my level of like emotional safety. I think that's like a very big thing for me, like when I'm dating. So like the way that you feel like when you're friend with your when you're with your friends, like I think that like that's also the way you should feel in some, it's not the same, but you should feel that level of safety like with the person that you're dating. And if you don't feel safe, and if that person is like not contributing to making you feel safe, then I think that's something like you have to take into consideration. So I'm gonna go ahead and end there. I don't know what I'm gonna be talking about next time, but that's all I got. I had to record this because I don't have anything to post on Sunday. So